that Africa is in the quest for economic transformation and job creation. And we are looking at what are the things that are best placed to drive such transformation. And water is one of them. And without water, you cannot be thinking about economic transformation and job creation, especially for the youth. A majority of them who are here, who need jobs to be able to achieve the Agenda since 2063 aspiration of a prosperous region. I will leave it at that, and I'm sure that there will be more discussion that we can have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me pass over to you as well, Nelson. Please kindly weigh in on the same question.
Thank you so much, Chair. My name is indeed Nelson Gumanda. I work at the African Ministers Council on Water at the Secretariat in Abuja in Nigeria. So I think my colleague Charles is quite right that the opening session kind of like summarized everything. But because we have the responsibility of setting the scene for the conversations, I think I can maybe summarize most of what we have heard this morning into 5 specific points. Number one is that we are on a continent that has climate change as one of the greatest threats. As of now, we have issues of erratic rain, we have issues of droughts, we also have issues of floods in most of our countries. So we definitely need to pay attention as we commemorate this year on the theme of water and sanitation. Number 2, we know that in our cities, in our villages, in our communities, there is a surging demand for water. Water demand satisfaction shows us that we really have quite a challenge in most of our member states. We know of countries where we can say that they are already living under water stress, but to have that water for satisfying all the sectors of our economy, it's a challenge. So we have increasing or growing demand for water. Number 3 is that we have also the surge in our population, which of course complicates the issue of water demand. The statistics tells us that by 2070, the continent will have about 3.2 billion people or more than what we have now. So you can imagine the demand related to water and sanitation for such a particular group or other population of people. Number 4, we can talk about, of course, the urban crisis. In our cities, apparently, we have quite a challenge, especially when we talk of sanitation. Statistics tells us that only 45% of most of our cities have access to sanitation and management of issues related to sanitation, and that coupled with increased urbanization in our countries, we definitely have to deal with that particular challenge. And lastly, number 5 is the issue related to conflicts, related to water resources. We also have already seen migration from one community to another. Some are even crossing the Mediterranean into other parts of the world. And then there is the whole thing of economic ecosystem collapse, economic collapse, because also of the issues related to challenges of pollution for our water systems. So this, especially the last one, the aspect of urban crisis is quite something that is serious. And with all these, maybe number 5, we can say that we cannot achieve the Agenda 2063 if we don't pay attention to all these points that we have said. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let me stay with you, Nelson. Africa has made very strong political commitment on water and sanitation over the years. Most recently, we have the Africa Water Vision 2063, and we have seen just very slow difference over the years. What are the key structural, institutional or financial barriers that have made us not see as much progress as we want to see, and what will we do differently going forward?
So you're right that Africa has adopted the Africa Vision 2063 policy at the ministerial level, and there are decisions at the ministerial level also through the STC to have this endorsed by the heads of state when they meet on 14th and 15th. But as you said, one of the key issues that we are noting, based on the question that you have raised, is that we are coming from the years where we have not valued water across all the sectors of our economy. If anything, we still treat water as something that is obvious. We have to have access to it. But valuing water in our agriculture sector, in our energy sector, in all the other sectors has been a challenge. So one key issue that the Africa Vision and Policy is emphasizing is that we have to shift from taking water as maybe just a common good, but value it as something that is quite critical, especially for our economies as well. And that is quite key in the sense that then we can commit necessary or commensurate resources towards water and sanitation. Another bit that maybe we have heard even from the opening is the issue of sanitation, which I also just mentioned earlier on. You look at the sanitation circular economy, you realize that there are quite a lot of breakages. From the source of the shit that we are going to create even on our gathering here, to have it treated, to have it properly integrated back into the environment, that continuum requires us all to pay attention to that. So including urban planning and everything that we do, engagement of the private sector, we need to really pay attention to those specific aspects, because as of now, our planning processes are disjointed. You think of putting up a building, putting up a toilet, but what you do with the shit that comes from that particular building is something that we don't pay attention. I see most of us in the building, we are smiling. It looks like a joke, but it's a serious issue that we need to pay attention to. And lastly, of course, we have to pay attention to the digital and innovative approaches so that we can deal with our challenges in a manner that is innovative as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nelson. I like that you highlighted that as dignitaries, CSO leaders, and political leaders descend on Addis Ababa this week, we're going to create a lot of toilet energy. And we have to learn how to manage, understand how this is properly and sustainably managed, in recognizing also that in many African cities, we do not have proper sanitation systems. Let me come over to you. From some of the things that we heard in the opening statement, there's also a gender lens to water and sanitation issues on the continent. And so my question is, water and sanitation challenges disproportionately affect women and girls and vulnerable population. How do we ensure that the theme of the year is implemented in a way that it provides equity and opportunities for us to solve this gender problem?
Thank you very much. I think this question takes us to the real crux of the matter. And it takes us to dealing with the people who are most in need and tackling the issues of inequity and inclusion, which is so important if we have to make sure that really we are getting water for all in Africa. I think in order to make sure that this happens in an inclusive manner, first of all, we want to make sure that the team is driven by evidence that is data-driven, that provides concrete information in terms of who is really affected and where are the greatest needs. I think that's extremely important. Secondly, the theme should be implemented with a clear focus on how we can deliver concrete services to the people in great need. I know that, of course, it's a theme and that we are doing a lot of policy advocacy at this point in time, but how can the implementation of the theme drive concrete actions that will deliver water and sanitation services and deliver environmental sustainability that is so much needed by the women, youth, and all other marginalized groups in Africa. And I think that another thing that we should be looking at in terms of making sure that we are dealing with these issues is, first of all, to appreciate the civil society for putting this together. I think it is bringing us to the most important thing that is undermining all these aspects of equity. And that is, how do we actually engage meaningfully all the key stakeholders? Because if we are not going to reach out to women groups, if we are not going to reach to youth groups, and if we are not going to reach the private sector, we shall be missing the people who will or do have a very important role in delivering the water agenda, but who also have lived experiences in terms of lack of water. Because if we are not going to get their voices to impact on the implementation of a theme, we are going to miss the point. We must bring them on board so that their voices are brought there on the implementation of a thing, and that we can have their voices driving concrete action on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me come over to you, Nelson. Is it a coincidence that many of the regions where we have conflict on the continent also suffer a water challenge? If you look at the Sahel region, the Lake Chad basis, if you look at Somalia, if you look at Sudan, many of the big conflicts on the continent also have a water problem. Is this a coincidence, or we have linkages that we can draw from this?
Thank you, Chair. So you're quite right, and I think most of colleagues who say, those water experts and others who have looked at the issues of governance related to water, who mentioned that they think the next wars and fights on the continent will not be about oil, will not be about other issues, but it will be on water and water resources. And as just said, we see pockets of these challenges in the regions that you have mentioned. And I think one thing that is emerging is that we need definitely to invest more on issues of transboundary water cooperation and governance. And that has still some challenges in some regions, as we know it, but we have a number of basin organizations that are providing like an opportunity to bring together member states and communities that are sharing some water resources to make sure that we have protocols, agreements on how we can develop the water resources in these specific settings. So we are in the Africa Water Vision and Policy that I just mentioned earlier on, looking at transboundary water cooperation as something that is a must for us on the continent. We should look at them as units for peace, units for integration, units for making sure that we have different views, different observations put across on the table. What is key for this transboundary water cooperation is make sure that we are sharing the data related to the water resources as well, and sharing an understanding of the type of developments that has to happen around the water resources that we are sharing across countries. So for now, in the new Africa Water Vision and Policy that we're talking about, we are looking at how can we ensure that we are investing in the transboundary water cooperation, looking at them as pillars basically for peace and security and integration. But more importantly, together jointly, looking at how we can be identifying transformative drivers. So the issue I mentioned earlier on valuing water is quite critical, but at the same time is looking at how can we ensure that we have integrated approaches to water diplomacy, we have integrated approaches to blue and green infrastructure development, especially at the continental level, with a view of promoting solidarity. Water, as you said, has a chance of dividing us maybe forever, but it also has a chance of uniting us for the benefit of our continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me come over to you, Mr. Charles. And as I come to Mr. Charles for this question, We want to have an interaction with also members of the audience, so we'll be coming into the audience for a first round of questions so that this can be an interactive session. Mr. Charles, from your role at the Economic Commission for Africa, we've talked about the challenges of water management on the continent. What are also the opportunities that we can harness on how we can sustainably manage water on the continent?
I think that's another very interesting question. But in order to be able to address that, we want to recognize some of the factors that emerge from our analysis as is here in terms of factors that are actually undermining Africa's water agenda. I think some of them we have actually mentioned. So the water agenda Africa is very large. And during the opening sessions, you heard that water is so strategic an asset. And it drives a lot of activities and progress in the various sectors, including in the area of agriculture and food security, industrial production and manufacturing, energy generation, and ecosystems well-being. But in order to be able to get to this, we have to be able to actually address a number of things that that affect the drive to this. And I think the opportunities lie in making sure that we have adequate prioritization and attention given to water, okay? As I said in the beginning, there is a balance, a pendulum of priority being given to water. So that is a very important thing that we need to do. And therefore, the importance of this theme and the African Union and the heads of state need to be commended for this. The other opportunity that we really need to take care of is what my colleague already mentioned, the importance of valuing water. I think sometimes when we talk about water, we tend to limit it to drinking water and maybe water for the sanitation. But I think we need to have a total look at what is the value of water to everybody. And if we can get this done, then we shall be able to make sure that water attains the priority ranking that it deserves. And the other opportunity that really arises is mainstreaming water across sectors. I think this is extremely important. Water is really not mainstreamed as a funded priority across all the sectors. This is what we need to make sure we do, because through that, we are able to mobilize multi-stakeholder action and make sure that we have the resources that are required to drive water across all the sectors. And another opportunity that we have really is leveraging innovative financing mechanisms to drive implementation of water-related programs in Africa. What is happening now is that because water is sometimes covered or not covered in some of the development plans, the financing that we have is inadequate. And secondly, you find that let us agree on this. I know that there's inadequate financing for many sectors in Africa, but I think water is one of those sectors that receives quite a bit of money, although inadequate. And the challenge is the inadequate use or, inefficient use of some of this money sometimes. We are not taking the money to where it's most needed, and if it is available, we are not using it at the right time, sufficiently enough to be able to get the things done. I think this is something that also needs to be done in terms of doing this. The third area that I want to highlight an opportunity really is addressing the issues of governance. And governance here includes making sure that we have meaningful engagement of key stakeholders. particularly the youth, the private sector, the women, and those kind of categories of people. I think there is an opportunity there for us to make sure then that we shall have the water agenda addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to the two panelists as we go to take the first round of questions. Can we have support from the Secretariat? Can I see with a show of hands if we have questions at this stage? I see one gentleman at the back wearing black. I'll take 5 questions to start with. Is there anyone helping us with the microphone? Thank you very much. There's a gentleman wearing black at the middle. Can you stand up so that we can see you? Yes, I'll take that's the first one. And then there's a lady here wearing blue as the second. On this side, we have the number 3 here. I would take number 4 right in front of here, and then number 5 there. All right, so let's start with you. Please tell us your name, the organization you represent, and please go straight to your question in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Africa Chiza. I work with Christian Aid. My question goes to the question of the issue of decolonizing water governance. And I'm glad the last speaker spoke about the need to move beyond water governance looking at the water from beyond sanitation and access. You realize that water governance in Africa is still, especially the Nile, is still governed by colonial treaties, I think that's 1929 and 1959. And this has sometimes led to conflicts among AU member states. My question is the AU exploring some alternatives to the existing treaties in terms of governing the shared resource like the Nile? I thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope my voice is audible enough to be heard, even though I cannot be seen. So I just want to thank you guys for your presentation, and my question goes directly to the UN Economic Commission for, Economic Commission for Africa. So I wanted to know, based on your presentation, I love the fact that you brought up the issue of governance, and I wanted to understand what implications or what ways do you have in ensuring that Africans government move from just policies, because we can talk about policies, but if it's not going to be implemented, it's a waste of time. So I really wanted to get to understanding that from good policies on water to sustainability and to actual implementation, especially on the rural and marginalized communities where women and the biggest burden of water is sarcastic, especially for women. So is there a way, a structure, a model that actually moves from just policies to actual implementation when it comes to state members, or we're just going to stick to policies and dialogues and nothing actually moves forward? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tell us your name and your organization.
My name is Magdalena Gise, and my organization is Tanzania Young Feminist Movement.
All right, thank you. The third person is here.
Merci. Moi, je vais parler en français. Je réponds au nom de Jean-Pierre Nzazi. Je viens de Kinshasa, en RDC. Bon, premièrement, je voudrais d'abord exprimer mes mécontentements parce que la réunion ici devait être bilingue, parce qu'il y a aussi des francophones. Mais malheureusement, on n'a pas tenu compte des francophones pour l'interprétation. Alors, faisant suite à l'exposé, puisqu'on est en train de parler sur les eaux, je voudrais parler particulièrement pour mon pays qui est la République démocratique du Congo. Et comme vous le savez, la République démocratique du Congo, c'est parmi les pays qui ont beaucoup d'eau en Afrique. Alors, mon inquiétude se situe au niveau où, tenant compte, on peut interpréter? You will translate. Okay. Someone will translate. I don't know speak English. Okay. Ma crainte c'est situé au niveau où vous connaissez la RDC comme c'est un pays qui est scandaleusement minéral. Alors, on se pose la question, est-ce que les problèmes d'eau qu'on est en train de soulever, est-ce que pour la RDC, ça ne sera pas encore une deuxième source de malheur comme ça se passe à l'est de la RDC? Je ne sais pas. Est-ce qu'on est en train de prendre quelques mesures pour chercher à accompagner de manière à ce que les eaux qui appartiennent à certains pays ne soient pas une cause de malheur? Comme je viens de le souligner, vous voyez, nos ressources deviennent pour nous une source de problèmes, de tueries, à l'est et surtout de la RDC. Alors je me pose la question, que je reprenne? Bon, il va traduire. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
The gentleman is Jean-Pierre from DRC, Congo DRC. So his question in very brief. DRC is known for a lot of conflicts and related to mines or natural resources. And his question is in the east part of DRC, would water resources, natural resources, won't pose a problem to the lives of people there? That's the question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please the mic to the lady here.
No, it's me.
The lady.
Oh, really?
Then we come to you as the last
all
person.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you for ensuring gender equality. Well, I'm Faustina Nilan from the All Africa Conference of Churches. Mine is just, I'm so excited to hear that the emphasis is put in water, not as a common good, but as the very important component of the economic development. This is very right. But now the challenge is, in most cases, according to statistics, women bear a lot of burden when it comes to wash. So they bear a lot of disappropriation in representation when it comes to water governance. So my question goes to the speakers, as you are trying to tell us about the water agenda and all other policies that are put in place. Now, from now and beyond, what are the practical measures that are put in place to make sure that we ensure this inclusivity as long as gender lens is concerned? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we'll come to the gentleman here.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Aberran Deshaw. I'm working as senior advisor to the minister at the Ministry of Water and Energy. And my question goes to Nelson, just as AMCO. First and foremost, I would like to appreciate for ECOSOC for bringing us together so that we will be able to contribute to the upcoming UN ordinary session of Leaders Summit. My question is, when Nelson was mentioning to us that the abundant water source across all African countries is becoming the potential areas for conflicts, and it's also to have potential opportunities for cooperation and unity. And this issue of the thought related to regional integration and cooperation have been a statement which we have been addressing everywhere we go across Africa and beyond, including to the UN Water Conference back in 2023. We were there in New York. And a lot of summits. Recently, in August, we have been in Cape Town for the African Union Water Investment Summit, and a lot of talks. And my question is, as AMCO, I know AMCO is a secretariat, and its role is a kind of facilitation and bringing member states together. But you do have Council of Ministers for Water. And what do you think are the very critical challenge in terms of grounding the practical cooperation and regional integration in terms of transboundary water sources? For audiences, just in case if it is a good example, Ethiopia is supplying potable, drinkable water supply for the people of Djibouti from our own source. Djibouti do have more than 28 wells in the border of Ethiopia, and we are supplying water for the people of Djibouti, just for the purpose of peaceful coexistence, and taking into account of people living in the borderland areas. But as AMCAO housed in the AU, we were expecting a lot more practical integration and cooperation of member states. So what are really the critical challenges? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take a pause now. We will come back for another round of questions if time permits. But I think that we have 5 questions. The first question is around decolonizing water governance and around many of the governance structure on water on the continent is from the colonial era, and what do we want to do in solving this? The second question focused around how do we move from policies to implementation and to sustainability, because there's a lot of policy statements around water. The third question is focused directly on DRC and the connection between water and some of the conflicts there. And the fourth question is around women bearing a lot of the burden on WASH, and how do we ensure inclusivity of women around the water governance issue. And the last question is around regional integration and the role that AMCAO is playing in ensuring practical cooperation between member states. So I'll come first to you, and then we'll come to Mr. Charles.
Thank you so much, Chair. Actually, I'll start with the easier ones, which are seemingly easier, and then I'll leave the difficult ones to Charles, because he is more into the business of dealing with difficult stuff. Bringing together member states across the globe is not easy. It's not easy, though, as they would say. These questions are quite critical, especially I'll start with the one on gender related to issues of governance. In the Africa division and policy that I mentioned earlier on, we've noted that this is quite an important issue, and there is apparently a vision statement that focuses on issue of gender and inclusivity in this particular case. And one key issue that we are observing is that we need to remove the barriers for, let's say, engagement of different stakeholders, especially when it comes to decision-making for matters related to water and sanitation. And we are also encouraging our member states to leverage on the demographics and the dividends that we have with more youth on the continent than any other continent, with more focus on gender, especially also women, because as you said, they are the blunt. But
is in the quest for economic
a behavioral response to uncertainty. Usually when climate risks are communicated, we think of them as something that's going to happen years later or decades later. And instinctively, sorry about that, the same way we individuals are wired the same as decision makers as well, we tend to prioritize the immediate problems, the present problems, because we lack resources. We have pressure from higher officials to respond to immediate responses than responding to the climate risks that are coming maybe years or decades later. So the way risks are framed and communicated is something that can also be improved so that from a behavior point of view, it encourages coordination and acting now instead of putting it for later. And just to summarize this, based on what we've talked about, I would say one thing we could do as a contribution to all the other things we could do to reduce cross-border water and energy risk is understanding exactly how much data can be shared across countries. Maybe it's a system that could be set up, because I understand some data is highly sensitive, it's not easily shareable to other countries, but identifying which data is high risk and low risk and having a clear understanding of where we can start and how much data can be shared with whom might be a good start, I would suggest. Thank you so much.
I think Bezawit and Nima covered a lot of what I would have liked to have added. But if we're thinking about one or two things that we're wanting to do in the immediate to help us along. I think the issue around the fragmentation has come up a lot. The fact that a lot of decisions are happening either in specific sectors or in specific countries without the sort of input from other people that might be affected or other sectors that might be affected by certain decisions. Of course, with these decisions, there is going to be trade-offs. How can we make sure that the trade-offs are not costing people's lives, or perhaps putting things in the works that might lead to the conflicts that we're talking about that might be in the future around water access. But the one thing that I think lies in between all of these things we're saying is how can we ensure more of a relational way of doing things and understanding each other beyond our borders, beyond our sectors, beyond where we, the positions we hold. And so it's the role, and I think one of the big roles of civil society and the people that are in this room today is that, can we bring back some of the humanity in some of these conversations and make it much more relational? I think that can allow us to truly hear each other. So when we're talking about decisions that are being made or we're building frameworks that are, 10, 15 years down the line, can these frameworks truly include everybody's voice? And can we hold each other accountable in those decisions? Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Thank you so much for these interventions. I think we have heard clearly that Africa's green transition will depend on how much we cooperate as states. We've also heard that national planning and regional risk should become, very important priorities for us, not an afterthought, but a political deliverable. We've also heard that in order to improve the transboundary water governance frameworks or architecture leading to an improvement in the energy transition, we need to reward cooperation, we need to strengthen accountability. For sectorial integration as well, I think Beza mentioned that. We also need to acknowledge that there's a behavioral problem that prevents cooperation. I would really like to see our politicians acknowledge that they have a behavioral problem preventing cooperation, but we'll see. We need to incentivize cooperation again, think futuristic, not just immediate, and improve data sharing. Also, the relational nature of the conversation around transboundary water governance. What I hear largely is the lack of trust. If you do not have trust across states, then obviously nobody's sharing data. I don't know that it is a question of competence or capacity as much as it is trust, at least surrounding what the resources, data resources that we already have. But let's bring it to the audience and we take 2, 3 questions or interventions before we call it a day. Okay. Yes, I'll go for the women. Someone in front is winking at me and smiling and saying, yeah, but he's the man. Okay, so I'll start on the right from someone who hasn't spoken before, the lady in the green jacket. Yes, you're looking back, but it's you.
Merci beaucoup for giving me the floor. I think I will maybe just speak in English as French look to be minorities here in the room. So I'm Kumba Fall from Femme Africa Solidarité in Senegal and part of GMAC network. So actually we have to forgive our partner today because we actually now have a panel composed of women's leaders, and I really appreciate that the panel was not showing women impacting by wash, but rather women bringing solutions and technology solutions. So this is really powerful. Thank you for the very important, let's say, sharing experience. My contribution is just to say that we maybe need to look more, moving from theoric, but being more practical and community-led experiences. I think through all the contributions, women have solutions, but we just have to go down. And as my sister was saying, maybe more involving community-level practices, and we have many. I also have to, while we say that, look at also member states that are doing, let's say, innovative practices. My brother from Ethiopia just mentioned about the solution driving preventing peace and transport of peace by supporting Djibouti in terms of services. So I think those are good models, really, that we need to look at. And as GMAC, that's what we are already doing, and we thank you for this very interesting panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our sister. Who else? Yes, she is wearing something that looks like green again. Green is not my favorite color, I promise.
Being biased is not a problem, I'm joking. But thank you very much. Mine was to say, I think also we can learn from things that are happening, and one of the things that unions have done very well, trade unions in particular, are very good with solidarity. And we know that workers have been at the forefront of actually coming up with the innovation that exists. The one thing that I don't hear us speaking about quite well is how we utilize trade unions and the workers in the solutions of the issues of water. Unions are there, they work. In fact, when you think about it, workers on a regular basis rely on sharing information and learning from one another. We go across borders even when there are wars, because we acknowledge that in our work we are able to do what we need. So I was going to say that in everything that we do, I'd like us to also consider trade unions as critical partners and as women within the trade unions who are doing strong work around that. And also the last one is about ensuring the issues of ownership are discussed quite well, because we know that most of the issues of ownership do not support us in Africa. And of course, in our processes of trying to come up with these innovation ideas, for instance, the issues of debt are the reason why the incentives are a bit of a problem. We are in a debt crisis, and it's not our doing, it's because of multinational, of colonialism. So it's something that we need to speak about and be able to move forward and ensure that we come up with the solutions for sustainable movement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You see, so far, you should trust my judgment. Oh, so let's just give the men an opportunity to speak. Yes, I understand you, but yes, let's just, one man.
Thank you very much. I think now you are beginning to build alliances with men. I think this is very critical because then I'm going to be speaking for women every day of my life. I think this discussion has brought on board a very important issue, that's that of technology design. But I think what we need to do is make sure that we couple it with proper technology governance so that these technologies get access to the people who need actually to utilize them. And talking of which, the other thing that's very important is uptake of these technologies. Now, I think one opportunity that we have to make sure that we drive uptake is consultations and discussions at various levels. And I want to say that from the 28th to the 30th of April, we are organizing the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development here in Addis Ababa. And I would like to invite you to this forum. This forum will continue the conversation on water. And one of the focuses is actually a team on water. And it will look at the intersection between water, energy, urbanization, infrastructure, development, innovation, technology, and the role of data and statistics. And in case you want really to be invited to this forum, I have my colleague here, Dr. Tandile Gule. Maybe if you could stand up. She's our focal person on water, and she'll be able to take your contact and make sure that you are invited to the forum. And so plan to be part of this forum because it's going to shape Africa's position to the UN Water Conference in December this year.
Thank you
very much.
You would have to pay us for that advert.
I did that in advance.
I think we've managed the time so far, so maybe we can go one more person. The man in the brown attire. Yes, you would. Yes. Yes, you'll go.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Adrian Chikora. I'm with the All Africa Conference of Churches, and this has been an interesting discussion. Ideally, innovations, resilience, energy transition, and even water governance need financing. And I think within this realm, we hear and even see a number of buzzwords: public-private partnerships, blended finance, green and water bonds. But ideally, these instruments are debt-creating instruments. So maybe my question here is where or how do we strike a balance between having water as a public good and mobilizing resources sustainably so that we avert the debt crisis that we see within the African continent? Mind you, at least 22 African countries are in high risk or already in debt distress, and a few of them are the ones with the largest reservoirs and direly in need. So how do you balance that out? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And drawing this interesting conversation to a close, we've heard finance, we've also heard ownership, utilizing trade unions, moving from too much theory to practice, the uptake of technology, and proper technology governance. If we can sum this up in an African proverb that says, the river is patient, it never forgets. And so water flows across borders, and so must cooperation, trust, and shared responsibility. Thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
The family photo. Join me again. I think that was a very quiet one. It has been an equally powerful panel. Let's put our hands together again and
Are you also get crash?
Yes.
Yes, the crash.
Let me get crash this one too. Thank you so much. So we are breaking for our lunch now. We'll break for 1 hour. It is 13:35. So 2:30, we should be back in, and we'll have our last two sessions. We aim to close by 5. So let's keep time. At 2:30, we should be back here. 2:35, actually. There is a colleague of mine who is giving out some lunch vouchers. She's over there. Please raise your hand up.